Go live now.
Okay, cool.
Good morning, everybody. Hold on, I'm in an ad. Oh no. Goddamn ads.
Is that the camera there?
No, baby, the camera is right there for
Oh, okay.
for the iPad.
I look like I was disassociated.
They were out of a lot of things. So
You know, like the guy in Plan 9.
Oh, I cannot wait for tonight. Last night was so good. Good.
I can see in here. Awesome. I'm terrified and excited to watch Saltburn.
It's gonna be great.
All right, I'm gonna mute my mic and I might go make some coffee. Another cup of coffee. So have fun, everybody.
Hi, welcome
Hello?
to Politics on the Patio with Phoenix, because I like a good alliteration. This is the first time, this is our first attempt at this. I'm on my iPad right now. So I have chat up. I have Twitch chat up on my phone so I can see what you guys are saying. But we have kept all of our newspapers
Since Thursday,
because we're the type of people who still pay for newspapers. Yes, we get we live here in Riverside, California, so we actually pay for our local newspaper, which is the Press Enterprise, because we like to support local artists and local journalists, and we say you should do that too, because it's like $1. No, that's the LA Times. We do the LA Times, but we do the digital LA Times for $1 because it's $1.
Press Enterprise is like $12 a month.
Yeah, $12 a month. We get newspaper every weekend, and this is how we like to spend our weekends, and this is actually how we do our research for our podcast.
And I just noticed that the Orange County Register owns them.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That is Orange County Register is a more conservative.
Well, that fits the Riverside area.
It does fit the Riverside area, but this is actually for it to be a more conservative paper, it's a good paper. So
at least for local stuff.
Yeah. So we're kind of here to my idea for this was to just kind of, one, fill space, but two, this is usually how we spend our mornings on Sundays, is actually sitting on the patio reading the newspaper, because one of the things that I really want to do with the podcast, not just educating people, but also making politics fun. It's hard, I know, but I think what makes it fun is having a person that you can talk with and learn from. I've opened up Ron's perspective on a lot of things that he didn't know, and vice versa. So it really matters to have the safe space that you can discuss politics, but it shouldn't be scary. It really shouldn't, because it affects your everyday life. And what I mean by that is, are you a renter or an owner? It doesn't matter, because politics affects both of those. Like, we rent our space, so the landlord is who we have to adhere to. So what are the landlord, tenant laws? Like, what rights do we have as tenants? Like, we had a roach problem, for example. It took them 2 years to get it fixed. I know that Crimson's dealing with a mouse problem right now, and there are some responsibilities that the landlords have to adhere to in order to keep us safe. And so you need to know those things, like what are your rights? And it shouldn't be scary. You know, I wish I thought of this ahead of time. I probably could have been able to set up the microphone that you use so that the sound is better.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
We live close to an airport.
We live very close to a small airport, so you're going to hear a lot. The helicopters go through a lot. Yeah, we really want to make, exactly, we want to make politics understandable because potholes, getting potholes filled on your street, that's politics. That's what, like, we emphasize your local politics, your local government is the most important because that is the space that you live in. So wherever you live in America, your local area is so much more important because that's where you live. You don't hear the air traffic? Wow. I mean, we are using the iPad, so I will say, as a longtime film person, Apple is superior when it comes to those type of thing. I prefer the Apple OS when it comes to work too, but I deal with PC. Anyway, Apple is an evil corporation and I hate how they do their shit. It shouldn't be as expensive as it is, but I digress.
For the record, I hate Apple products.
I think Apple is super. I don't like their phones. I think their phones are terrible. But I love the iPad. Anyway, so yeah, if you have any questions about current events, this is a great time for you to. No, little ant, get off my iPad.
Well, if you got the camera, you'd be a huge ant.
You would. So yeah, I keep pushing you out. I'm sorry. I'm pushing you. There we go. Fuck Apple, exactly. So
totally agree.
Can you hand me? There was a newspaper from, I think it was Thursday's paper. Is it this one?
That's Thursday's front section.
Maybe it was Friday that I had seen.
This is Friday's.
There was an article that you had read that I was like, oh, that's interesting. You should keep that and talk. We should keep it and talk about it. But I don't remember what it was. Ooh, what's for lunch, Thea? It's breakfast time here, by the way.
We had cereal and homemade McMuffin.
Yep. Oh, I think there it is. That's what it was. It was the abortion access. This trigger warning before I go any further. It is politics. So we are going to be discussing current topics, which means issues that make people uncomfortable. So this is your warning that anything that deals with reproductive rights, abortion, women's rights, civil rights, Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, and LGBTQ people are amazing people. So we're part of the alphabet mafia. So those are the type of things that we discuss on the podcast on Learning the Law. And this most recent podcast, so my favorite podcast that we've had in the last couple of weeks has been the Secret Service one. That's 2 podcasts ago. We learn about the history of the Secret Service and how it works. Wow, did we learn so much? We had no idea. Did you know that the Secret Service started in the Department of Treasury? I didn't know that. That was really cool. Did you? So anyway, that's the kind of stuff that we talk about And we also have a section where we go over Project 2025 and Agenda 47 so that we can understand what the fascists in this country are doing, because we are in real time. Good God, that's a big ass mourning dove on that limb up there. There is a really fat pigeon. Do you see the mourning dove on this limb?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see how fat he is?
Yeah.
I like him. He's beautiful. Okay, all right, sorry. We are avid bird watchers. So anyway, oh yeah, by the way, this is Hazel, our witch cat that stays on our patio door. She watches the patio for me. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, Project 2025 and Agenda 47, we are able to pinpoint in real time how the GOP is pushing this narrative. So it's really important stuff, but we break it up in sections because we were going crazy trying to get through this document. So we're like, you know what? We're just going to be slower. And we're going to break it up into small segments.
982 pages.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So did you want to talk about this?
All right, I'm gonna pop in. What are both of those things? I'm not a news person. We know this. We talked about this. But what are those two things? Because I have no idea.
What two things?
Oh, Project 2025?
Oh,
Yeah, those
That
two
is
things.
Project 2025 is the fascist manifesto that has been around in some iteration or another
since Reagan.
Since actually,
even before that.
It was before Reagan. And you know how I know? Because I'm learning about it in this really crazy book called, hold on, I have books. I checked it out weeks ago for a bit of light reading. This is where I'm at right now in this book. I've been reading it for a while. But it's called Blood and Politics, the White Nationalist Movement from the Margins to the Mainstream. It is by Leonard Zeskind. It's not an easy read. It's an academic book. I do not recommend it unless you really want to learn about it. There are easier books to read.
In essence, Project 2025 is a manual / manifesto put out by Hillsdale College, probably the most conservative college in the United States.
Yeah.
With what a new conservative president should do in order to consolidate his power.
And one of the patterns that we are seeing in Project 2025 is they want to consolidate power. So they'll take a nugget of truth on what is wrong with the government. There are lots of things that are wrong with the government that need to be adjusted and reorganized and restructured. That is a fact. But what is not a fact is the president is not the person who has the power in this country. And Project 2025 wants to shift the power to the president. And the way we're going through it and breaking it down, you really, really see that pattern come out. You can really, really see that if you listen to the podcast, because it's crazy. And this is a result of the civil rights movement, actually. It started because of the civil rights movement.
Yeah,
it is true. Sense. It is true racism. Pure racism.
And then Project 47.
Agenda 47 is Donald Trump reiterating all of that stuff.
And how he's going to do it when he's the 47th president.
Fuck, half the time he doesn't even say how he's going to do it. He just blames everything on Biden and China.
Yeah, I know.
And then he doesn't tell you what he plans on doing.
No, he tells you what he plans on doing. He just doesn't tell you how.
Ron is an unofficial member of Real Women of Gaming. He is our unofficial lawyer for girl streamers, too. Ron does a lot of pro bono work for me. Hummingbird? Is she back?
Could be.
Oh, is she back?
I don't know. Maybe. She doesn't look green though. It looks like a different colored hummingbird.
It does look like it's reflecting some yellow on that tummy. We love watching the birds out. This is part of our process. Unofficial legal advice, yes. And just whenever we do talk about legal stuff, we are not your lawyers. Ron cannot be your lawyer. So what we talk about is public knowledge and public information.
In my opinion on.
And his opinion on stuff. In my opinion on stuff. Yeah, counterfeit money is mostly investigated by the Secret Service. Yes, solid. That is correct.
Why it was brought into being.
Yep. That was its original purpose. It is one of the oldest law enforcement agencies in America. So, yeah. AKA break down the checks and balances of the Constitution. 100% solid. That is exactly what they're trying to do. Because they've already bought the Supreme Court. Thanks, Leonard Leo. So they've bought a lot of Congress. However, this is the part in the panel where I take a moment to remind you all to go to vote.org. Vote.org. We are not sponsored by vote.org. You can tell that I talk about this a lot on the podcast. We're not sponsored by vote.org. Real Women of Gaming is not sponsored by vote.org, but it is a free resource for anybody in America to go and learn about your local elections because, as we've stated before, your local elections are the most important elections. And just FYI, every seat for the House of Representatives is up for vote for election this year. So you have a chance to get a better person in the seat of your House of Representatives. Vote.org will help you discover that along the way. You can also register on vote.org, and 1/3 of our Senate is up for grabs on vote.org as well. So this year is a huge year for change. And you can make that happen by going to vote.org. Make sure you're registered to vote. And you can get all of the information that you need at vote.org. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Can I interject one teeny tiny thing about voting? One just tiny,
yes.
tiny thing. It's going to be as quick as possible. So I didn't vote for a very long time. Doesn't matter. But I vote now. And when I started voting, one of the times I went to vote, they were like, "Oh, well, we don't see your name in the book." Now, because of NIMBY, because of Phoenix, I knew that I could check, and I had checked prior, and they magically found my name in another book that wasn't on the table. So, make sure you check before you go, and then you have a voter registration card. I have one. It's mailed to me. I showed it to them. It was up to date. They found my name. That does happen. It's terrible. We hate to see it. It does happen. Be vigilant. Be an asshole if you have to, because it's your right to vote.
It is. And
I'm done.
I am so proud of you for that. Can I just say, I am so proud of you for that. That is awesome, because it is scary. Because when you go up there, especially if you are not used to voting, because they do try to make it difficult to vote on purpose. Because if it was easy to vote, everybody would do it.
Right.
And guess what would happen if everybody got a chance to vote? The people in power right now would not be in power. And they know that. That is why there is power in voting.
And as a reminder, this November, the GOP is going to try and put volunteers to monitor the election.
Yes.
And
that's illegal.
They're going to try and actually look at your ballot after you vote. Do not hand anyone your ballot except the actual poll workers.
And they're not even supposed to look at your stuff. If
right.
you are handing in a mail-in ballot, they don't touch it. They look to make sure you signed everything, and then you yourself put it in the box.
They
As
do the
far
same
as your
thing at
electronic,
voting. Yeah, they do the
I'm
same
sorry,
thing.
go ahead.
They do the same thing at electronic voting at my place. This beautiful black woman, I love her. She's there every year. She looks to make sure it's all filled out. And then she tells me you need to put it in this machine this way so that your vote goes through. And that's exactly what I do. She doesn't say anything else. I've heard her comment like, hey, I think you should fill this in a little bit more, or something needs to be like, but it's never a comment on your votes. It's a, hey, I want to make sure this is filled out 100% so that your vote is registered.
That's all it should be. That is all it should be. They're just looking to make sure you signed the stuff the right way and you filled in, like a little bubble fully. But they should never be making sure that you vote, because you don't have to vote in all of the things. You don't have to fill them all out. If there is one that you don't want to vote for, you don't have to fill that bubble in. So it's not like, the SAT. Actually, it's like the SAT. You don't have to answer them all.
Right.
Real quick, if you don't mind, going on to about local and small time elections being important. My job, I often work with the little public library systems. And so essentially, the reason why I'm bringing this up and saying anything is, yes, the local small time elections matter, as in school boards, boards of trustees of your public library. Uh, all these things are important. Town trustees, all this stuff is important. And the reason why I say it's important is because if you go to ALA, the American Library Association.org's website, you will see the massive increase in books being challenged, aka
Yes.
censored, that has increased dramatically in the past like 2 years versus like all the other years since they started tracking it. I think they started tracking it back in like the 60s or something like that. So we've had this massive increase in trying to essentially censor books that have people of color as main characters, LGBTQIA plus folks being characters or even being subjects mentioned and stuff like that, and or all of this being written off as like being like pornography to against children and so, and exposing children to things. But yet the Christian Bible with all the things depicted in that book are like supposedly okay and stuff like that. And these are all being done at local election levels. So
That's
voting
because,
for that,
yeah,
voting in these issues is actually really important for that one. And even if you don't have children or you have children that are homeschooled or something like that, that are not part of the public school system, the kids who do go to the public school system where some of these challenges are happening and some of these school board insanity is happening, they are the ones who grow up and they will interact with your children eventually.
yeah,
And they will go on to a public office. So even if you don't have kids or you don't have kids in the public school system, it's still a relevant thing to your life.
Yes, and
Hey, ALA.org, you go up there and look up their info. They'll tell you.
I read an article about I believe it was a library in Texas, where they have a law that you can challenge, and if they don't take the book off the shelf, you get $250. Yeah, the author's last name was Gay, and they went and they challenged that book. And the only thing that was gay about the book was the author's last name. And still they had to take it off the shelf or give that person $250.
that's so stupid.
Yeah.
And see, but this is a prime example of how the GOP, how fascists work. They know that you like. So one of the things that I've been learning in reading this book is, they learned how to they call it a cobweb. And so if one gets taken down, the web is still there and they can just fill in the gaps. So that's why you see all like Proud Boys and stuff like that. They know that grassroots community driven stuff is what works. And when all you have when all you have is fascism doing the grassroots work and not the Democrats and liberals also doing the grassroots work, you know, you're going to feel underrepresented. And that's where Democrats really, really fall short. Democrats want to lose because they make more money while Republicans are in office because Republicans are greedy and they can blame it on the Republicans.
So they get more fundraising.
So Democrats are just as bad as Republicans. And the way American politics are right now, most of the Democrats, like I would say 90% of the Democrats in office, are actually center right. They're not left at all. So when your whole government system has shifted to the right, everything's going to look far left. Because even Biden is more conservative than he is liberal. And we see that by him still selling and giving guns to Israel as they commit genocide.
Yes. There is what's known as the Leahy Law, where you are not supposed to give any kind of military aid to units that are committing war crimes, basically. But there is a special committee for the country of Israel and their aid, as opposed to every other country we give aid. And so far, they have not found Israel or their army have committed any kinds of war crimes ever.
Which is really rich because we actually, one of our recent podcasts was about the Leahy laws. And we have found that some of the boxes that they check for the Leahy laws, the soldiers in Israel have committed every single one of them. Yet somehow they still get a pass.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. I'm not a dumb question. I'm going to ask a normal person question, like somebody who isn't in the law or politics. Isn't the UN there to protect from this shit happening?
That's not
This
a
is
dumb
my
question.
This
That's
is my
not a dumb
misconception.
question.
Theoretically, yes. But 5 countries in the UN have a veto power over anything the UN wants to do. England, France, Germany, Russia, and the US.
Yeah.
There might be China. I'm not sure about that. I don't think China has veto power. But anything that comes up, if you want to veto it, it goes away.
And yes, if you see a pattern, there is a pattern. It's there on purpose. All of the colonizing countries are the ones that have veto power.
Right. Now there's 10 other members of the Security Council which rotate, but they don't have veto power. So generally what they do is they bring up a problem in the world and either the US or Russia vetoes the solution.
One of the biggest problems is the UN doesn't have a real force. They have some enforcement forces, but nothing compared to what America or England or Russia can provide. So the UN relies heavily on American military to enforce the UN sanctions. The problem is when it's America that needs to be sanctioned, who's going to do it? We're not going to police ourselves. It's clear we don't police ourselves. So that's the biggest problem with the UN. It shouldn't be centered here. It shouldn't be in America. It should be in a country that is neutral like Switzerland.
Yeah,
Thank you for the
in the
answer. I'm just
nutshell.
going to stand here and laugh cry.
Huh?
I said, thank you for your answer. I'm going to stand over here and laugh cry.
Yeah. No, these are these are great questions. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, otherwise I'm just gonna ramble. So please interrupt me.
Just want everyone to know. Yes, the Arizona abortion law of 1864 did get repealed, but California is working on their own laws to allow Arizona abortion providers just to bring their patients right on over the border.
Yeah. To make it easier.
It'll probably go into effect at the end of the year.
Also, California, have we established that we're a sanctuary state yet? Or I think we're trying to establish that we are going to be a sanctuary state.
For which area?
For anyone who needs an abortion.
Yeah, they're not going to extradite anybody who breaks an abortion law in another state.
Yeah.
And they come after you here in California. They're not going to extradite you for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's what
that
it was.
means that, like, okay, I don't I know Pennsylvania hasn't caught up to the being in the assholes yet in this scenario, but so say I get an abortion here in Pennsylvania, and there's laws against it, right? If I just like, you know what, I'm gonna go live with Phoenix and Ron, Pennsylvania can't do anything about it?
Nope.
Oh, California, I fucking love you.
Also, by the way, we have opened up our home for anyone who does need assistance. We are not prepared yet, but we are getting to ourselves to be prepared to host people if it's necessary.
Yeah, we don't have a big space, but we have space.
Yeah. As long as you like dogs. That's a service that we will soon provide. We can't financially support people, but we can give you a space to stay and a safe care, like, you know.
We need to work out the details, but
yeah. And there's a lot of people who are doing that across the globe. You should download an app called Signal. And if you need to talk to anybody, talk to them through Signal when it comes to reproductive health right now. And ladies, be careful about the apps you use to keep up with your periods. That is a very real fear and a very real scary moment that we have to be realistic about. It really sucks.
Yeah, because a lot of the apps are collecting data on you and sending it to insurance companies and such.
Yeah. Which is should be illegal, but yeah. Give me the newspaper. Ah. Universities brace for pro-Palestine protests. So, the protests across the universities is just going to get more and more.
Like it did during the Vietnam War.
Yeah. I actually got a text yesterday about one that's happening. They were asking for help from for volunteers for today down at a University of Southern California in LA. It was UCLA. Not Southern California, it was UCLA. So they're doing one right now too.
Well, you know, USC got rid of their commencement ceremony.
Oh, I know. Yeah, let's punish these kids for
having freedom of speech.
for using their freedom of speech. Like, also, I don't know why the government thinks that the kids they have abandoned are going to respect the police and their authority on the subject. Right. What's wild to me is these are the kids who grew up learning about mass shooter drills. And you're surprised that they know how to lock themselves inside of these schools? What? How? The cop. You didn't help them then, and you're not helping them now. Why do you think? Why do you think these kids are so pissed? They're angry, and they have a right to be angry. One of the things Ron and I were talking about this the other day. As a millennial, because I'm firmly in the millennial generation, I remember growing up being taught about history as if this was really far in the past. Things are okay now. You know, this was then, and we don't have any of these problems anymore. And with the invention of the internet, that kind of disillusioned our generation because we got to, in real time, hear get this education while they were telling us truths. They were also kind of alluding to that it's like, oh, we have the civil rights movement happened. Okay. The civil rights movement happened. So now, racism is fixed. And the reality is it's not. And millennials, because of the internet, got to see in real time, oh, that's not true. So we kind of grew up in these dual minds of it's fixed, but then also watching, but it's not fixed if it's supposed to be fixed. And so now we're all adults going, yeah, the whole time we knew there was some shit fucked up, but y'all were just trying to gaslight us. So now you have these massive generations who grew up seeing the realities of what's happening because of the internet while being taught something completely different. And that's why we have the reaction that we have now, because the children have been abandoned and they're pissed. Hi, puppy.
Hi, baby. Who's a good doggy? Who's a good doggy?
She's like, I want to be out here while you guys are on the patio. So, I think Ron had to go pee. I will give you guys some books that I found very enlightening. The first one, you don't have to read the book, although I highly recommend reading the book. It's called Cast: The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. You don't have to read the book because Ava DuVernay, her movie Origin, which is just this book on film. It's literally this book on film. She does a great job with the movie. And so if you don't want to deal with the reading process, I highly recommend the book, the movie Origin by Ava DuVernay. It's a very good adaptation from book to screen, for one. And it's heavy stuff. But oh my god, it's so enlightening. So what she does with this is she takes Nazi Germany. She takes Jim Crow South, and she takes the Indian caste systems, all three of those caste systems, and compares them, and like really does a deep dive on the similarities and the differences, and just like it's enlightening. It's very enlightening, and I highly recommend this for any white person on their anti-racist journey to either read this book or watch it. I checked it out at the library and then I went and bought it because it's that good. And then the next book I would highly recommend. This is a very quick read because it's only 200 pages. It's a shorter version of what I'm reading now. Yo, what the fuck, bro? Rude.
At least it wasn't on camera.
Rude. My dog just peed. So this book, Preparing for War, The Extremist History of White Christian Nationalism and What Comes Next, by Bradley Onishi. This book, it doesn't read like an academic book. It reads quite fast. And he talks about the new movement, which is so what we have right now is, I don't know, it's like the umpteenth iteration of the white nationalist movement. But so the New South is here in Southern California, not in the South. The new movement is actually based here in Southern California, the new white nationalist movement, and this talks all about it. It came out of a Quaker church in Yorba Linda, California. And that's what this book talks about. It talks about him being pulled into the church, what he dealt with, how he was sucked in, went through all of the craziness. And I'm like reading it and I'm like, oh my God, this is my childhood. Like I you can see I highlight a lot. And I've highlighted a lot and written in the margins of this book because it's so if you are interested in anything like that, this is a really, really, really great read, and it's a pretty fast read. It's just a little over 200 pages. And welcome back.
Thank you. There's a disturbing trend I just wanted to bring up.
What's that?
Outline homelessness.
Yes.
A lot of jurisdictions have started bringing these anti-homeless laws. You can't sleep on the sidewalk. You can't sleep in a public park. You can't sleep on the beach, etc. Where are they going to go? That's what I want to know.
Right.
You can't throw them in prison for life because they're homeless, although they want to try.
Yeah, so then they can charge you. Remember, I read that article earlier where they there's this girl. Yeah, because they're now charging the inmates for being in jail.
Right, a daily fee.
A daily fee to pay for their prison cells.
Because
we read an article about that this morning. I shit you not. This lady is in debt for $170,000 because she spent 10 months in prison.
Wasn't there at some point where like you made? I'm so mad right now. I'm so sorry. You made. Like, you did stuff in jail that helped, so you made money in jail? Like,
you make 15 cents an hour. You make so far under minimum wage in jail, you'll never pay anything back.
And the reason they get away with that is slavery is not outlawed in the United States.
That's the new slave system.
It is still a viable sentence for a crime according to the 14th Amendment.
This is the slave system capitalism is the slave system in America. And so this is how they do it.
They don't want to give up all the people who are in prison for stupid weed offenses, even though weed is illegal in most places because it's going to fuck up their system.
Right.
Exactly. Racism. Because who's the one who gets in trouble the most in this country? Black and brown people. It's all a way to keep black and brown people under the thumb of white oppression.
And let's not forget that Nazi Germany looked at Jim Crow South laws.
That's what this book talks about. Like, this book, seriously. You know how everybody's like, why are you always talking about racism? Why is it always racism? This book shows you that the foundations of this country is racism.
Yeah. And some of those Jim Crow South laws were too extreme for even the Nazis to put into place.
Which she talks about. Yes.
That's I'm sorry, too extreme for the Nazis is a new tagline that I never thought I'd hear.
I would love to do a showing of Origin for Women of Gaming, because the movie was, I'm telling you, this is that enlightening. Like, it's just that good. And as a filmmaker, I'm a big fan of Ava DuVernay's anyway. She is one of my favorite filmmakers. So anytime I get a chance to share Ava DuVernay, I will share it. But if anybody is interested and wants to watch that, I would love to watch it with you, because then we can discuss it afterwards and you can ask me questions so that you feel, because it's going to be confusing. And yeah, so I would love
that idea. We're going to do that. That's a thing we're going to do.
I clearly I am passionate about this.
No, you think?
I am very passionate about this stuff, because I went to a Patreon convention and I heard this phrase, and I will never forget it, but it's a very common phrase, but that was the first time I ever heard it. But she said, a rising tide lifts all ships. And just when the first time I heard that phrase, I was like, oh, yeah. Why are we not lifting everyone up? Why do we have to push people down to be lifted up? It's like it all connected when I heard somebody say that out loud, and I was just like, why do we do that? And it just kind of like clicked. So I love this shit, because we have to talk about it, and because talking about it helps us heal from it and move forward.
I want to just bring up the book.
What book?
Hitler's American Model.
Oh.
The author is James Q. Whitman. It's from Princeton University Press. And it is Hitler's American Model, the United States and the Making of Nazi Race Law.
That might be my next book after I read the other one. I'm going to be an expert on white nationalism. And it's weird because, like, I'm reading through this book. It's wild because, like, he is very detailed in the Blood and Politics book. And I'm like, this is how I was taught racism through the church. Like, it's weird. It's weird to read this stuff and see, oh, I remember learning about this in church. I remember learning about this growing up, because for those of you who don't know, I'm from the Deep South. I'm from Georgia. I was born in Atlanta because that's the only hospital that was worth any snuff around to go to. That's why I was born in Atlanta. Yeah, the rhetoric is, you don't realize the rhetoric until you step away, but it is ingrained in white society to be racist. And it is an awful reality to come to terms with. But it shouldn't be scary, because we're all capable of change. We can all do better. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm almost 40. So
I'm almost 40.
No.
I'm closer to 40 than 100.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
He got you there. He not wrong.
He just had a birthday at the beginning of this month, actually. April 16th was Ron's birthday.
Yes, it
Happy
was.
belated birthday.
Thank you.
He turned, how old you turn?
57.
37, got it. So I want to just say I appreciate you both so much, and I love talking to you two when it comes to this, because one of the problems I've had is through my entire life is politics and law. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it took a long time to realize that it was written and explained so it doesn't make sense to everybody. They use big words, they use 8 million pages and everything, so we don't understand it. And
You'd be out of a job if they made it easy.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because I want to understand, but I have ADHD. You know, I went to public school. My education sucks. Like, there's so many things against me. So I was always afraid of asking people, "Hey, what does this mean?" And I love both of you because you're both clearly educated, passionate people. And there is never a time when I could come to you and you're like, "Oh, that's a dumb question." You're like, "No, makes sense, perfectly understandable. Here, we're going to break it down for you." And I could ask you a million more questions in that single question, and you'll break down every step. And I appreciate that.
A lot of the questions that you ask, I already asked myself. Which is crazy, because, like, I cannot tell you how many times, like, you've asked a question, I'm like, I've asked that question too. Like, that has been my response in my head. It's like, that's a great question. Because it's a good question. And you asking those questions allows us to be able to talk about things that we don't always go back to because they are common questions. That's why we like doing, like, the podcast where we get you guys to ask us questions, because even though some people ask us the same stuff, you haven't heard us talk about it yet.
Those are my favorite episodes.
Yeah, you haven't heard us talk about it yet. So yeah, let us answer those easy questions, because one, we know those answers off the top of our heads because we've already looked that shit up. And two, it gives us a chance to talk about the shit that we like to talk about. So
Well, also, like during the whole during the Black Lives Matter thing, me and my husband started watching the news in Australia because our media is not biased in any way, shape, or form. So we were getting the direct information from England, from, like, the BBC, from Australia. We were watching.
That's
stuff like
smart.
That, because we were getting information, and that's when. And there is one legal dude who was like, breaking stuff down on YouTube, and we just came across him, and he was explaining that like the looting and the attacking and the violence, he was like, those aren't the protesters. And he was explaining that people come in specifically to do those things for A, an opportunity, or B, to villainize the protesters.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something I had thought about.
And that's interesting you bring that up. I'm glad you brought that up, because in 3 states there was a law that was just passed, and I've seen people talking about it on TikTok and stuff like that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because they are.
Do you want to tell what the law was?
Yeah, you can explain it better than I can.
The law that was passed was any protests that are organized by somebody, will say, John, if anybody at that protest does some kind of violent crime or, breaks property or whatever,
and anything that's illegal,
John can be held liable for it. even though he doesn't know anything about it, even though he never said, "Go ahead and burn this car." And that's Texas,
So-
Louisiana, Florida, I think.
AKA
Oh, that
make
doesn't-
something protesting illegal without actually making protesting illegal.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
It's such a bad thing to do that it's essentially illegal. to
So
do.
It's
I
yeah.
organize a protest, and you two come, and then Ron's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna break into this Target. I can go to jail,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, yep.
even if I don't. Oh my!
Now
And
the
here's the thing.
Okay, I will say the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center are already on top of it, like fighting these. You know, they are already like being, you know, trying to be played out in court. However, right now, that's the kind of stuff that they are trying to do, and they're going to, and it's just going to get worse, which is the unfortunate reality right now. That doesn't mean that it's all bad, because there are good things that are being done. It's just, and here's my plug again, voting, that's voting, calling your representatives, paying attention to your local elections, all of that stuff matters. Like, and if you don't know, like, vote.org is such a great resource that it keeps it. You don't have to, like me, read every day about what's going on. Just go when you have the brain space to say, okay, all right, who are my local elections? What do I, just do some research and ask your friends who are more politically savvy than you are to help you out when you have questions. I hate the whole, you don't talk about religion and politics and finances with people. Bullshit.
I have one other thing to say about that before our time's up.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only is it the people that show up to protest with you and the organizer, they can, the clan can send in somebody, or one of the Proud Boys or whatever. They're just clan renamed.
They're all clan.
They can also come in, do their crime, and
We meet again?
you're still held responsible for it.
Morning.
Yeah.
I have already
So
Oh,
make
no.
sure, if you're in those states, to call and bug the shit out of your representatives. Because a great example of that is the 1864 bullshit that Arizona had placed. Because of all of the backlash from people calling and telling them how stupid it was, they repealed it because of you.
Yeah.
So it works.
And Kansas and Michigan. This is like, those were states that had abortion bans right after Roe v. Wade got pulled. And what happened? It did. Their abortion bans or expansion of abortion bans failed because people showed up at the polls.
Yeah.
That's reality. People showed
It
up at the
does
polls.
work. It really does work. It's just we have to stay vigilant. Constant vigilance.
That's why it was never about states' rights.
Never.
That's why they're going to try and push the national abortion ban in the upcoming election cycles.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh god, I hate everything. All right, thank you so much for being amazing and answering all these questions. Make sure everybody goes and follows Learning the Law podcast, and you can actually ask them questions too that they can answer on their podcast. But make sure you tune in and listen. We're gonna take a tiny break, and then we're gonna come back and hang out with Real One Gaming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
What's your personality? Come join in on games with me.
Freshly activated, I see.
How wonderful. Think of the possibilities.
Android, what is